So Chapter 3 is on expansion, overflow, and synergy, and really represents an attempt to look at how television is expanding in many, many ways. While I try to analyze what recent shifts and changes and expansions in television mean and how they affect the study of TV entertainment, a large amount of the chapter is actually descriptive, laying out the environment so it can be discussed, so we can analyze it more. And for this reason, I'll sort of skim over it a little quickly now in this explanation. Nevertheless, I start with a case study of Lost, the TV show, and of how it became much more than a one-hour show on once a week. I look at its overflow from television into websites set within the show's fictional frame, and how advertisers and audience have played in this frame too. And then I also look at how one can experience Lost in so many different ways, given the proliferating modes of television delivery that we're seeing now. We can see it on ABC, on a DVR. We can buy it from iTunes, buy the DVD sets, watch reruns with pop-up text explanations. We can read fan speculations simultaneously while we watch, and so forth. So TV has multiple textures to it, and Lost offers a good example of a variety of them. I then connect this to a discussion of how the TV industry has expanded through mergers and acquisitions, or partnerships, at a very business structural level, and hence through multiple matrices of synergy, how it's tried to sort of expand in other ways than just narrative conventions. I look at how synergy offered a means to survive in an otherwise ever more competitive media entertainment environment. And I try to look at some of the marriages, corporate marriages that have occurred. And yet, if television is changing as a business, and if modes of delivery are shifting, especially if we're seeing more pull media, and a proliferation of delivery models that sideline or exclude advertisers, it's also important to stop and consider what those advertisers are doing to stay in your face, and how they too are winnowing their way into overflowing narratives and programs. And yet then, if all these changes have excited many, it's because of the potential for some of them to revolutionize how we as audiences relate to and access TV entertainment. So I then turn to the audience and to the consumption of overflow, looking at both the more optimistic prognostications and yet also at some of the concerns about what happens when viewers can seemingly personalize viewing experiences, to the point that we're now looking at narrowcasting, not necessarily broadcasting. But what was broadcasting good for and what's lost? I try to offer some answers while also reminding us that it's not as if everyone is in this narrowcasting age. It's not as though everyone is in this new TV environment. Some of us have iPods, yes, but most don't. Some have DVRs, most don't. Some are online discussing shows, but many don't have online access. Well, then at the end, I shift to another key form of expansion, namely global expansion. And I have brief sections on the global expansion of ownership, production, programs, formats, and then style. And finally, I end by posing the question of how television studies as a field can and must change to keep up with all this expansion.